I still taste that coffee when I wake up, burn as shit, metallic at the back of my tongue like I licked a battery. Not because it was strong, because it was the first thing I drank that didn't come out of a brown paper bag in years, and my body didn't know whether to trust it or throw it up. I was good at being alone, like professionally. You don't get good at it because you're brave. You get good at it because no one shows up over and over until your brain stops expecting footsteps that aren't coming. I spent my childhood getting traded like a busted lawnmower from one foster house to the next. Each one pulled the same scam. Taking a kid, slap on a sad story, squeeze the government for extra assistance, then treat the kid like the excuse, not the person. I wasn't a son. I wasn't even a guest. I was paperwork that breathed. Then I aged out and did what I was trained to do. Disappear where it was cheapest. Dingy alleys. Park benches that smelled like piss. Under stairwells in winter with newspapers wrapped around my shoes like it mattered. I learned how to fold myself small so cops would look right through me. I learned which dumpsters behind which grocery stores had the good expiration dates. I learned how long you can go without sleep before the streetlights start humming your name. Heroin made it easier, not nicer, easier. It took the edge off the constant feeling that the world was one bad second away from kicking you in the teeth again. Then the county caught me with a little baggie and decided I needed 8 months in jail to think about my choices. Like I hadn't been thinking about them every goddamn day. Jail didn't save me. It just slowed me down long enough to notice I was dying. When I got out, my parole officer kept talking about structure like it was a vitamin. Get a job, he said. Get a place. Keep your head down. He said it like I could just walk into a new life the way normal people walk into Walmart. But I did it. I sat through 6 weeks of CDL classes with my hands shaking, sweat stinging my eyes, trying not to crawl out of my own skin. I passed because I can memorize rules. That's what a childhood like mine teaches you. Rules keep you alive until they don't. The job came through because my parole officer knew someone who knew someone at a local oil outfit. Water trucks, hauling and dumping, night shift. They needed bodies more than they needed spotless backgrounds. The pay was real money. The kind that comes in checks, not crumpled ones pulled from a pocket that smells like lighter fluid. My first night, I met Dave. He looked like the kind of man who'd been built to wrestle machinery. Tall and thick, gut hanging a little too far past his fire-retardant shirt. Forearms like hams with hair on them. Salt and pepper hair, Irish orange goatee. Eyes that never quite opened all the way like he'd been squinting at headlights for 20 years. He had that vibe some older guys have where they don't smile to be friendly, they smile to show they still have teeth. He stuck out his hand and squeezed mine like he was checking if I was soft. Beginners start on overnights, he said. They don't let you work days till they're sure you'll stay. His voice had that gravel in a coffee can sound. He said it like it wasn't advice, just weather. I nodded because nodding is what you do when you don't want attention. My body still hadn't adapted to sleeping during the day. I had those dark, heavy bags under my eyes like bruises. My stomach felt hollow and jittery. My brain kept doing that thing where it tries to run away from your skull. Dave saw my cheap little thermos, one of those dented ones you get at a thrift store for $3, and he snorted. Here, he said, and pulled a big stainless steel thermos from his truck door pocket like he'd been waiting. Spare. You'll need it. His own thermos was practically glued to his hand, and the bags under his eyes matched mine. So I figured nobody gets used to the schedule. You just get quieter about how shitty it feels. We did the pre-trip check under hard fluorescent shop lights. Tires, lines, valves, paperwork. The kind of routine that makes you feel safe because it has steps. And if you follow steps, the universe is supposed to behave. We climbed into the cab. I took the passenger seat. The vinyl was cracked and smelled like old sweat and diesel. When the engine turned over, the whole truck shuddered like it was waking up annoyed. We rolled out around 7. Still some light left. That gray-blue hour where the sky pretends it isn't about to choke everything in darkness. Dave avoided the highway like he was allergic to it. DOT sits on interstates, he said. Back roads, You're less likely to get weighed, and less likely to get found if something goes sideways. He said that last part like a joke, but he didn't laugh. We worked the border area out in the Appalachian Hills, the kind of roads that curl around itself like a snake trying to swallow its tail. Trees leaned in close. Cell service vanished in patches. There were long stretches where the only light was our headlights and the glow of the dash. I tried to stay awake. I did that thing where you force your eyes open wider, like it's a switch you can control. I took a long drink of coffee, and it hit my stomach like a punch. Bitter, hot, alive. I sat up straighter and stared at the road like I could stare myself conscious. Dave talked while he drove, like he didn't trust silence. "There's rules," he said. "All us drivers got him." I waited because I didn't know if he wanted me to respond. Guys like Dave, you respond wrong and they decide you're useless. "Rule 1, he said, holding up a finger like he was teaching a class. "Don't drive to a pad on your own. These pumps are out of range, and if you roll into a ditch, no one hears you scream. You break down, you need a ride back. So we caravan." He flicked another finger. "Rule 2, 3 breaks. 1 lunch, 2 refuels. That's it. You gotta piss, you piss then. You forget snacks, you go hungry." He flicked a third finger, and his eyes went briefly to mine, heavy and serious. "And rule 3, he said, don't drive in silence. Not at night." That one sat in the cab with us. The way he said it, the way he didn't dress it up, like silence wasn't just boring, it was dangerous. "Why?" I asked, because my mouth ran ahead of my survival instinct sometimes. Dave's jaw worked like he was chewing that question. Then he shrugged, like he didn't care if I believed him. "Because at night," he said, "the hills start talking back." He reached over and cranked the radio a little louder. Static hissed between stations. Some country song bled in. It didn't help. The static sounded like breathing. We hit a light. One of those pointless little intersections where a lonely traffic signal hangs over 2 empty roads, like it's still hoping for a city that never grew. It turned red. Dave didn't even tap the brakes. "Hey," I said, leaning forward. "Red." He went through it like the light didn't exist. And then blue and red in the side mirrors. Flashing. Close. That instant jolt of panic you get when you've had cops in your life for all the wrong reasons. My spine tightened. My hands went cold. "I think we're getting pulled over," I said louder. "Dave." "Hey, we're getting pulled over." Dave didn't look, didn't slow down. If anything, he pressed the gas. The engine groaned, and the tanker hissed like it didn't like being pushed. The flashing lights got brighter. The whole cab flickered red, blue, red, blue. It painted Dave's face like a crime scene. "Dave," I said, my voice cracked. "What the fuck?" And then the lights were gone. Just gone. Like someone unplugged them from reality. I whipped around, craning toward the back window. All I saw was darkness, and, way behind us, a single pair of headlights from another tanker, steady and normal. No cruiser, no flashing, no siren, nothing. I leaned in close to the mirror like it was a trick, like if I stared hard enough the cop would pop back into existence. My heart hammered. The hair on my arm stood up. "What the fuck was that?" I started, and then my stomach dropped so hard it felt like it punched through my pelvis. Dave's hands weren't on the wheel. Dave was slumped back in the seat. His shoulders were hunched. His fingers were jammed into his own face. At first my brain refused it. It tried to reframe it as him rubbing his eyes, exhausted. But I saw his thumbs press under his eyelids, and I heard the wet little pop as he pushed. His eyeballs came out like peeled grapes, dangling by those pale strings that aren't meant to be seen. His mouth opened too wide, jaw stretching like it had hinges it wasn't supposed to have. Teeth, not normal teeth, rows of jagged yellow blades, like a bear trap built out of bones. He wrapped his hands around his own eyes and plucked them free like fruit. Tossed them into that mouth. Bit down, pop squish. Liquid ran down his chin. His lips pulled into a smile that didn't fit on a human face. I didn't move. I couldn't. My lungs locked. My hands went numb. All I could do was stare at my driver, this big, solid, real man, eating his own eyes like it was nothing. My brain did gymnastics, frantic and stupid. Hallucination, dream, withdrawal, sleep, anything but the truth in front of me. Then his skull hinged back like it was loading a spring, and in one blur his jaws snapped down on my forearm. The pain came late, like my nerves needed a second to catch up. When it hit like a car wreck. Bone-crushing pressure, a hot, bright line of agony that made the world go white. I screamed, and I woke up. Dave's hand was on my arm, not teeth. He was shaking me hard, flashlight beam stabbing into my eyes. My mouth tasted like panic. My shirt clung to my back. My forearm ached where his hand gripped it, and for half a second my brain still expected blood. A neon open sign buzzed in the gas station window, just outside my door, blue and red flickering like a cheap heartbeat. Dave squinted at me. "You done?" he said. I jerked away like his skin was hot. My voice came out sharp and mean before I could stop it. "What the hell, man?" Dave's eyebrows lifted and something in his expression hardened. Not offended, just done. "Listen, kid," he said. "I'll let the sleeping slide tonight 'cause you're new. But if I catch you drifting even once tomorrow night, I'm strapping you to the hood." He said it like he wasn't joking, like he'd done it. "We're at our first stop," he went on. "Refill your coffee, take a piss, grab whatever you need. 10 minutes. Don't make me come in and drag you out." He tucked the flashlight into the door pocket and climbed out. The door slammed and the cab shook. I sat there for a second, trying to convince my heart it wasn't still being eaten. Outside, the darkness was thicker than city dark. City dark still as glow. Streetlights, storefronts, movement. Out here, the trees swallowed light like they were hungry. The road disappeared into black in both directions. The gas station looked like a tiny, fragile island of fluorescent buzz. I stepped out and the cold hit me hard, damp and sharp. The air smelled like wet leaves and gasoline. Somewhere far back in the woods, something made a small sound, too soft to identify, and my body reacted like it was a shout. Inside, the station lights hummed overhead. The buzzing was almost comforting. The clerk looked up from her phone with a half smile that didn't reach her eyes. Her face had that same exhausted blankness I'd seen on everyone since I clocked in. Like sleep wasn't something they did anymore. It was something they remembered. I refilled my thermos at the coffee pot. The coffee was tar dark and smelled burnt. I didn't care. I needed something to hold, something to do with my hands. The linoleum squeaked under my boots as I walked to the counter. I set the thermos down. My wallet felt too light, too new to be mine. "Is that it, honey?" the clerk asked. Her voice had that fake cheer you put on when you've been screamed at by too many strangers. "We got a sale on beef jerky. I know you truck drivers like your snacks." Her laugh was small and humorless, more like a cough. "This," I said, and my voice sounded wrong in the bright room, like it belonged outside in the dark. "And a pack of Marlboro Reds." She rang it up. Her nails clicked on the buttons. She slid the cigarettes over like she'd done 1,000 times tonight already. I hated this part, the normal part, the forced kindness, the monotony. It made my skin crawl because it reminded me how far away I was from anything that felt real. Addiction at least felt real. It was ugly, but it was honest. This was just pretend. I paid and walked out. The cold air hit again. I pulled a cigarette from the pack, stuck in my mouth, lit it. The first drag scratched my throat, and the nicotine settled my hand a little. I leaned against the grimy brick wall, exhaled smoke, and stared at the road. The hair on the back of my neck rose. Not slowly, not like a thought, like a switch flipped. Across the empty road, beyond the thin reach of the gas station lights, the tree line broke in one place. A little clearing ringed by evergreens, and in the center of it stood Albert Hockney. My cigarette fell out of my mouth. I didn't even feel it drop. My body went cold in a way coffee can't fix. Albert Hockney was one of my foster parents. I hate even calling him that. Most foster parents who were bad did it in ways that didn't leave marks. Yelling, starving you but calling it discipline, locking food up, making you earn the right to sit down. They did it because bruises made paperwork, and paperwork made problems. Albert didn't care about problems because he didn't have neighbors. He lived in a cabin outside the city with a woman I assumed was his wife. Indifferent, always present like a piece of furniture. They had 2 kids of their own. They called us pigs, said we belonged in the barn, and they meant it literally. At night, the foster kids slept on hay in a shed out back. No heat in winter, no fans in summer, just the smell of manure baked into the wood. He said it built character. I was 13 and the oldest of 5. The little ones looked at me like I had answers, like I could protect them. I couldn't. I could only teach them how to get hit quieter. Albert had a leg from an old dining chair, thick wood, worn smooth where his hand gripped it. He named it Big John, like it was a pet. When he was in a mood, he'd tap it on the floor. Top, top, top. That was your warning. If you didn't get in line fast enough, he'd move faster than a man his size should be able to move. One hand would pin you to a wall or the ground. The other would swing Big John like a bat. He didn't just hit. He made a point. He watched your face when it landed, like he wanted to see what broke first, your body or your pride. I never cried. Not because I was tough, because crying made it worse. Crying fed him. The younger kids did cry. They didn't know not to. I still hear those sounds sometimes, late at night, even when I'm sober. Like the world recorded them. Now Albert stood in that clearing, wearing the same shape he'd worn in my memory. Heavy shoulders, thick neck, that posture like he owned the air around him. In his hand was Big John, resting on his shoulder like it was casual. His eyes found mine, deep set, dark, hungry. My legs went useless. My lungs forgot how to work. I dropped my thermos. It clanged on the concrete and coffee splashed out like blood. Albert lifted Big John and started walking toward me. No, not walking, striding, like he knew he had all the time in the world. Then he sped up, all yoke, boots crunching over leaves. Then a sprint. I squeezed my eyes shut because my brain did the only thing it knew, make it not real. My heart slammed against my ribs. I heard boots on asphalt, boots hitting the edge of the parking lot, boots hitting concrete. Any second now, I thought. Any second Big John will come down, and I won't have hay to hide him this time. A hand clapped my shoulder. I damn near stopped existing. Hey, Dave's voice said close. You okay? My eyes snapped open. Empty road. Dim gas station lot. Tree lines solid and dark. No cleaning. No Albert. No Big John. Just the endless wall of woods holding back whatever lived in there. At some point, without noticing, I'd crouched down with my knees pulled to my chest like a kid. My cigarette lay on the ground, still smoking. Dave stared at me like he was measuring how broken I was. Not judging, just calculating. You okay? He asked again. There's nothing out there. My hands shook as I grabbed my thermos. Most of the coffee had spilled. The metal was cold against my palm. Yeah, I lied because lying is reflex. I'm good. I just thought I saw something. Dave's jaw tightened. He nodded once, like that answer fit a file in his head. The hills will do that to you, he said. That's why we drive in pairs now. You'll see shit that don't make sense. Shit that'll shake you. If you're smart, you don't chase it. His tone wasn't a lecture. It was tired, like he'd already watched too many people chase it. We walked back to the truck. I didn't bother refilling my coffee. The idea of drinking anything out here suddenly felt like playing roulette with my own head. The other tanker rolled in a minute later, Jordan, the driver, pulling up behind us. I saw him through the mirror. Younger guy, wiry, always chewing something, always acting like nothing scared him. That type, the kind who thinks fear is a choice. We rolled out again, 2 trucks nose to tail, heading deeper into the dark. Dave talked more once he realized I was wide awake now. He filled the cab with words like he was patching cracks in a wall. It's simple, he said. Shop gives you the truck. You drive to the pad, fill the tanker. Then you haul to the disposal point. Dump, rinse, repeat till 6 a.m., don't overthink it. I tried to listen. I really did. But my brain kept snagging on the gas station, on Albert's eyes, on the way it felt like he was real enough to hit me again. I'd hallucinated before, sure. Withdrawal does that. Sleep deprivation does that. But this was different. This had weight, texture. It left that cold, sick feeling in my stomach like it changed something in the world. We hit the first pad, a fenced-off patch carved out of forest with pumps and tanks and mud, and that constant industrial groan. The air smelled like chemicals and wet dirt. Our headlights caught reflective markers on posts, making the place look like it had eyes. Dave showed me how to hook the hoses, how to open the manhole cover with the pry bar, how to watch the gauges, how not to get sprayed. He moved like a man who could do it blind. Jordan pulled in behind us and started his own hookup without saying much. He didn't like me. New guys mean more work, more mistakes, more babysitting. I didn't care. I wasn't here to make friends. I was here to keep a roof over my head and stay off the needle. We loaded up, then rolled out toward the disposal site, one of those places that barely feels like a place. Just a cleared area, a buried tank, a manhole cover, and darkness on all sides. When we got there, Dave hopped down first. The cold bit through my jacket. The night was quieter out here, but not peaceful. There's a difference. Peaceful quiet feels like rest. This quiet felt like something holding its breath. Dave yanked the pry bar out and jammed it into the edge of the manhole cover. He leaned his weight on it. Metal groaned. The cover popped loose with a suction sound, like the ground didn't want to let it go. He glanced at his watch. His brows pulled together. Jordan should have been here by now, he said. I looked back. No headlights, just black road and trees. Dave stared a second longer, then pointed at the cab. Hop in. Radio him. I climbed up, grabbed the radio mic. The plastic felt greasy, worn from other hands. Static popped when I keyed it. Truck 2, this is Truck 1, I said. Status update? Nothing. Just static. Like the night itself was answering. I waited, tried again. Truck 2, we're at offload. What's your ETA? Static again, louder this time, like something moved closer to the mic on the other end and breathed. I swallowed. My throat felt dry. I climbed back down and jogged to Dave. Can't reach him, I said. Just static? Dave didn't look surprised. That's what scared me most. He didn't curse, didn't get animated, didn't do the normal human thing. He just unclamped the hoses and started moving faster. He shoved the hoses back into their cradle, snapped latches, then climbed into the cab with the pry bar still in his hand. I followed because I didn't know what else to do. He keyed the radio, voice sharp now. Jordan, pick up, goddammit. Where the hell are you? Silence. Dave's mouth tightened into a line. He threw the truck into gear and turned us back the way we came, tires crunching gravel. The engine rumbled low, like it wasn't happy about going back into the dark. We drove maybe 2 miles before the road lit up strange, our headlights catching something that didn't belong. A tanker on its side. Jordan's truck was flipped at a curve, the cab crushed against the ditch like a giant hand had pushed it over. Glass glittered on the road. One headlight still shone, pointed into the woods like it was trying to see what dragged him. Dave stopped hard on the shoulder. The cab rocked. In the beam of our headlights, I saw it. Fresh red drag marks. Not tire marks. Not skids. A smear that started at the shattered window of Jordan's cab, crossed the road, and disappeared into the trees like someone had taken a paintbrush dipped in blood and drawn a line into the forest. My mouth went dry so fast it felt like my tongue shrank. Dave stared at the drag marks, then at the woods, like he was listening to something I couldn't hear. Radio the shop, he said. Tell him it's a code 211. I blinked. A what? Code 211, he repeated, impatient now, like my confusion was a luxury we didn't have. And no matter what, he turned and looked straight at me. Do not get out of this truck until they get here. There was something in his eyes then. Not fear exactly. More like he'd seen the end of this movie before and didn't want to watch it again. I grabbed the radio mic with shaking fingers. Keyed it. Truck 8446 to shop, I said. We have a code 211. Requesting immediate assistance. Static. Then the dispatcher's voice came through, calm in that practiced way. Shop to truck 8446. Copy. sending shift foremen and emergency services. What's your location? 2 miles south of offload site 167, I said. One truck is flipped. We stopped to assist. Copy. Please remain in your vehicle until emergency services arrive. I set the mic down. My heart pounded so hard my chest hurt. Dave reached behind his back and pulled a snub-nose .357 from his waistband like it had been there the whole time. He checked the cylinder with quick, familiar movements. The metal caught the dashboard light and looked too clean, too casual. My stomach twisted. Dave, I said, voice thin. What are you? He cut me off without looking at me. Staying alive. He opened the door and climbed out. Dave, I snapped, louder now, panic making me stupid. You said don't get out. I said you don't get out. He shot back and slammed the door. I watched him in the headlights, moving along the blood smear like it was a trail he'd been paid to follow. He stepped over shattered glass. He leaned down once, touched the red on the road with 2 fingers, then stared into the woods. The trees looked thicker from here. The darkness under them looked heavier, like it wasn't just the absence of light, like it had mass. Dave disappeared into that dark without a flashlight, like he didn't want anything to see him coming. I sat there with my hands clenched, nails digging into my palms, and listened. For a moment, there was nothing but the truck's engine ticking and my own breathing. Then, crack, a gunshot, sharp and loud, echoing off the hills. My whole body flinched. Then another. Then 2 more, closer together. My breath came in fast, shallow pulls. My mind tried to picture Jordan out there, alive or dead, and something else with him, something that made Dave empty 4 rounds like he was trying to erase it. My eyes darted around the cab. My hands felt useless. If I stayed and Dave died out there, I'd be alone on this road with a flipped truck and blood leading into the woods and whatever made Rule 3 exist. If I went, I'd be going into those trees with nothing but my fear and a truck tool. The sirens were faint, somewhere far away. Not close enough, not fast enough. The dispatcher's calm voice didn't mean anything out here. The hills didn't care about procedure. Another gunshot cracked, 5th. Dave had 1 left if he loaded 5. I didn't know, but my brain did that math anyway. My brain always does the math. It's why I'm still alive. I stared at the pry bar between the seats. 4 feet of steel with a pointed end, heavy enough to break bone if you swung it right. It wasn't a gun. It was something. My hand closed around it before I fully decided. My other hand found the door handle. For a second, I just sat there, listening to my own pulse, feeling the cab's warmth like a last chance. Then I pushed the door open and stepped out into the cold, with the pry bar in my grip and the woods swallowing the road in front of me. The cold slapped me awake in a way coffee never could. That damp, Appalachian cold that crawls under your collar and sits on your spine like a hand. My boots hit gravel, then asphalt, then the soft edge where the road bled into weeds and leaf litter. The pry bar felt wrong in my hands. Too heavy, too honest, like it was a promise I hadn't earned. Behind me, the truck idled, headlights pouring a hard white tunnel into the trees. Everything outside, that beam was pure black. Not night black, not no streetlights black. This was black like a bruise, black like a mouth. I stepped into the trees anyway. The ground changed instantly. Road was simple, woods were not. Leaves muffled my steps. Branches snagged my sleeves. The air got thicker, wet and sour, like decaying wood and old animal shit. The smell of blood got stronger the deeper I went, and I hated that my body recognized it like a familiar place. Dave, I called, and my voice came out too loud, too thin. Dave, where the fuck are you? The woods swallow my words. No hecho, no bounce. Like the sound just died. I took another few steps, and the headlights behind me vanished from my peripheral. The darkness closed in, and my eyes started doing that frantic adjust thing, pupils stretching, brain desperately trying to turn shadow into shape. I should have stayed in the truck. I knew that. I knew it in the same way you know you shouldn't pick at a scab. But my whole life had been people telling me what to do, and half the time, What to do meant stay put and take it. My body didn't listen to that anymore. Not when I could hear gunshots and imagine a man dying alone because I sat in a warm cab like a coward. I tried to follow Dave's tracks, but the leaf litter hid everything. The blood smear was gone now, just darkness and trees and that heavy silence pressing into my ears. Then the sixth shot cracked. It sounded different than the others. Not like warning, like punctuation. Something in me snapped. I moved faster, crashing through brush, not caring if I got cut up, because at that point pain felt like proof I was still real. "Dave!" I yelled again. No answer. And then I saw it. A pinprick of light on the ground ahead, faint and wrong, like a fallen star. I ran toward it and almost tripped over roots, almost ate shit on wet leaves, but I got there. The flashlight. It was lying sideways, beam half buried in leaves, shining at nothing. Dave's flashlight. The one he'd shoved into the door pocket like it lived there. My chest tightened. The hairs on my arms rose. I bent down and picked it up, and the plastic was slick. Not with rain, with sweat or blood. I clicked it off for a second and just stood in the dark, because the light felt like a beacon, like saying, "Here I am, come get me." My breathing sounded too loud. I listened. At first I heard nothing but my own blood rushing and the faint far-off engine hum from the truck. Then, so quiet I almost missed it, there was a sound that didn't belong. A child crying. Not a normal kid cry. Not tantrum, not scraped knee. This was the wet, shaking wail of a little kid who thinks they've been abandoned. It came from deeper in the woods, off to my left. My throat went cold. There was no reason for a child to be out here. No houses for miles. No sidewalks. No playground. Just state forest and oil pads and roads that swallowed people when it was convenient. The cry came again, closer, and my skin crawled because it wasn't getting closer like footsteps. It was getting closer like it was moving through the trees without moving through the space between. I swallowed hard and whispered, "Dave?" My voice barely left my mouth. Silence. Then the crying changed. It stretched out, warped like someone was dragging the sound through their teeth. The last sob turned into a low growl that made my stomach flip. I clicked the flashlight on and swung it toward the sound. A shape launched out of the darkness. For a second my brain said dog. Then it said wolf. Then it said something worse because the eyes were wrong. Too bright, too fixed, reflecting the beam like coins. A coyote. At least, it wore a coyote's skin. It came at my face, jaws wide, teeth too long and too white for an animal that should be living off scraps. I shoved the pry bar up like a reflex, and its teeth clamped down on the metal with a clang that rang through my bones. The force knocked me back. I went down hard, shoulder hitting wet ground. The flashlight flew from my hand and spun, beams sweeping in a wild circle that made the trees strobe. The coyote's jaws stayed on the bar. It shook its head like it was trying to snap the steel in half. Its breath hit me, hot and rotten, like meat left in a sun-baked trash bag. It made a sound that wasn't a growl so much as a wet choke, like there was something stuck in its throat that it couldn't cough up. I kicked at it, boots slamming into ribs. It didn't yelp. It didn't flinch like an animal. It just adjusted its grip and lunged again like it knew exactly how far my arms could reach. I scrambled backward, palms sliding in mud. My heart hammered so hard it felt like it was trying to crawl out of my throat. The coyote moved in a crescent, circling me with the patience of something that enjoyed this. The beam from the dropped flashlight lit it from below, and I saw its mouth open in a grin that made no sense for an animal. Its lips pulled back too far, exposing gums that looked almost human, pink and slick. It crouched, haunches tensing. I pointed the pry bar at its face like a spear and prayed my arms wouldn't fail. It launched. A thick branch swung down out of nowhere and cracked the coyote's skull with a sickening crunch. The sound was wrong, too solid, like breaking a melon. The animal's body folded midair and slammed into the ground, legs crumpling like they'd been unplugged. I froze, lungs locked, staring at it, waiting for it to get back up, waiting for it to do something that proved it wasn't just flesh. Footsteps moved behind it. Heavy, fast, controlled. Dave stepped into the flashlight beam, carrying Jordan over his shoulder like a sack of wet laundry. Dave was covered in blood, not just a little splatter. His shirt was soaked in patches. His arms had scratches, deep ones like something had raked him with claws. His knuckles were raw. His face had that look guys get after a car wreck. Wide-eyed but focused, like the body took over and the mind is still catching up. He didn't look at the coyote. He didn't look at me at first. He grabbed the flashlight off the ground, snapped it toward my face, and I flinched like he'd hit me. I said to stay in the fucking truck, he growled. My mouth opened, but no words came out. My throat was full of ash. Dave's eyes cut over me, quick, like inventory. Then he shifted Jordan's weight on his shoulder and started moving. Get up, he snapped. Move. I stumbled to my feet, legs shaking. The pry bar felt heavier now, like it had absorbed the fear. I followed Dave through the trees, head down, trying not to think about the fact that Jordan wasn't moving. His arms hung limp, his head lolled. The smell of blood was stronger on him, and it didn't smell like a cut. It smelled like open body. The woods felt tighter on the way back, like the trees leaned in closer, like the dark behind us followed. We broke out onto the roadside, just as sirens got louder, red and blue lights throwing color into the trees. EMTs rushed toward us. A cop stepped forward, hand on his holster, flashlight beam bouncing as he took in the scene. Dave dumped Jordan onto the stretcher like he was out of patience and out of time. The EMTs checked for a pulse. One of them pressed fingers to Jordan's neck, and his face changed. Then I saw Jordan's throat. Not cut, not scraped. Gone. It looked like something had grabbed him by the neck and taken a bite out of him. Not one bite. Multiple. Meat missing in chunks. Jagged edges. Black blood in the folds. And his arms. Jesus. His arms looked like someone had chewed on them. The EMT swallowed hard, looked at his partner, and then did that subtle shake of the head. Time, he said quietly, and I heard him call it. Exakt. Clinical. Like that made it less horrible. My stomach rolled. I turned away and vomited into the ditch, bitter coffee and nothing else, because there wasn't much in me to begin with. A state trooper asked Dave questions. Dave answered like he'd rehearsed them, like this was a drill. What happened? Truck rolled at the curve. Where's the driver? Dragged into the woods. By what? Dave shrugged. Coyotes. The cop's eyes flicked toward the woods and stayed there too long. Like he didn't believe it, but didn't want to say it out loud. I sat on the guardrail shaking. The cold didn't feel cold anymore. I felt hollow. I felt like someone scraped my insides clean. The shop foreman arrived before the ambulance even pulled out. Big guy with a white hard hat and a clipboard like he was there to measure property damage, not a dead man. He looked at the flipped truck, looked at Jordan's blood on the road, and his expression didn't change much. That told me a lot. He told the cops we were going back for drug tests. Company policy, he said. Any incident, everybody gets screened. The words landed wrong. Not because it didn't make sense, because it came too fast, too automatic. Like that was the part that mattered, not the torn throat. Back at the shop, under fluorescent lights that made everything look sickly, they swabbed my mouth, took my urine, filled out forms. Dave and I sat in a cramped office while the foreman typed like it was a normal Tuesday. Dave didn't look at me. I stared at his hands. His fingers were steady. No tremor. No shake. Like he hadn't just shot a gun in the woods and carried a mutilated man back to the road. When I finally got home, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that coyote's grin, Jordan's throat, the flashlight lying on the ground like a dropped warning. And under all of it, like a song stuck in my head, I kept hearing Dave's rules. Don't drive alone. 3 breaks. Don't drive in silence. That last one kept looping because I realized something. The woods had been quiet. Too quiet. The only sound out there had been the crying. 3 nights passed. I did what I've always done when something is too big. I tried to pretend it didn't happen. I went to work. I followed instructions. I took my breaks. I didn't look at the tree line too long. I didn't let my mind wander back to that curve. But you can't pretend your way out of a dead man with bites taken out of him. This afternoon, Technically yesterday, because my sleep was wrecked, my phone rang around 2 p.m., unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Then I saw the area code and something in my chest tightened. Yeah, I said, voice rough from lack of sleep. This is Detective Harmon, the voice said. Calm, professional, not friendly. I'm calling about the incident involving Jordan Kelso. My stomach dropped. Okay, I need to ask you a few questions, he said, and I need you to listen carefully. I sat on the edge of my mattress in my small apartment. The place still smelled like new paint and cheap carpet. It didn't feel like mine yet. It felt like a set someone built to see if I could play normal. Okay, I said again. Jordan's truck, Harmon said, was tampered with. My brain snagged on the word. Tampered. The lug nuts on the rear passenger side wheel were loosened, he said. Not all the way off, just loosened enough to wobble. Enough to cause a roll at speed. That curve? That wasn't an accident. The room felt like it tilted. Who would do that? We don't know yet, Harmon said. That's why I'm calling. I swallowed. My throat felt like sandpaper. Dave said it was... I don't care what your coworker said. Harmon cut in, and his tone sharpened. I care what you saw. I hesitated, because what I saw sounded insane. Because every time I've told the truth in my life, someone used it against me. I saw blood, I said carefully. I saw drag marks into the woods. I saw an animal. There was a pause. On the other end, I heard paper shift, like he was writing. An animal, he repeated. Describe it. It was a coyote, I said, and even as I said it, I heard how weak it sounded. But not right. Not right how? My jaw clenched. Too big. Teeth wrong. It sounded like a kid crying. Silence on the line again, but this time it didn't feel like skepticism. It felt like him choosing words. Second thing, Harmon said finally, your drug screening from the shop came back. You popped for sedatives. My skin went cold. That's not possible, I blurted. I'm on parole. I didn't take anything. You're telling me you didn't knowingly ingest any sedatives? He asked. No, he snubbed. No, I didn't. Okay, he said slow. Then how did they get in your system? My mind jumped instantly to the only thing I'd consumed that night besides nicotine. The coffee. The coffee Dave handed me like a gift. My tongue tasted metal again, like a battery. I drank coffee, I said, and my voice came out smaller. At the start of the shift, Dave gave me a spare thermos. I drank it. There was another pause. I could hear Harmon breathing now. Did the coffee taste unusual? He asked. It tasted like coffee, I said, angry now because my body hated being cornered. It tasted burnt and bitter, like coffee. Any dizziness? He pressed. Any loss of time? Any lapses? My fingers curled into my blanket. I fell asleep in the passenger seat. I had a nightmare, a real bad one. Then Dave woke me up at a gas station. Where was the gas station? Harmon asked. I stared at the wall. I realized I didn't know. I hadn't looked at a sign. I'd been too busy seeing Albert Hockney in the trees. I don't know, I admitted. Do you recall the name? Harmon asked again, sharper. No, I said, and I hated that my voice shook. I was out of it. Listen, Harmon said, and his tone shifted, still professional, but there was urgency now. I'm not calling to accuse you of anything. I'm calling because a man is dead, his truck was sabotaged, and you were sedated. That point somewhere. You understand. I stared at my hands. They looked too normal for what they'd held. Yeah, I whispered. Who else had access to your coffee? Harmon asked. My brain tried to dodge the answer, but there was nowhere to dodge. Dave, I said. Your trainer, Harmon said. The one who told you to stay in the truck. Yeah. Did he offer you the coffee, unsolicited? Harmon asked. Yes. Did he watch you drink it? I thought of Dave's eyes, heavy, measuring, the way he'd looked at me like inventory. Yeah, I said again. Harmon exhaled slowly, like he already knew where this was going and didn't like it. Last question, he said. Do you have to work tonight? I laughed once, short and ugly. Yeah, I said. I'm on nights. With him? Harmon asked. I didn't answer fast enough. Answer me, he said, and the calm cracked. Yes, I said. Do not get in that truck, Harmon said immediately. I'm serious. Call out sick. Quit. I don't care. Do not go. My throat tightened. Anger flared. Not at him. At the world. You gonna pay my rent? I snapped. You gonna call my parole officer and explain why I quit the only job that hired me? Stay alive, Harmon said. His voice went low. You can figure out rent if you're breathing. I pressed my fingers into my eyes like that would erase the image of Dave's jaw unhinging in my dream. I don't know what's real, I admitted, and that was the truth I hated the most. I see things sometimes. I don't know if it's the hills or my head or... Hear me, Harmon said. You told me about a coyote that cried like a child. You told me a man was dragged into the woods. And you tested positive for sedatives you swear you didn't take. That's enough real for me. My breathing got shallow. Harmon continued. If you insist on going, then you do exactly what I say. You keep your phone recording. You do not drink anything he gives you. You do not let yourself be alone with him. You understand? You can't tell me what to do, I said automatically, because rebellion is my comfort blanket. No, Aramon snapped. But I can tell you when people are setting you up to die. And I'm telling you now. I opened my mouth to argue again, but the words fell apart because somewhere deep in my gut, something cold agreed with him. Okay, I said finally. Harmon held the line a second longer. If you see anything, he said, if anything feels off, you call 911. You call me. You do not be a hero. I thought of Dave carrying Jordan out of the woods like he was a chore. Yeah, I said, voice flat. Sure. He gave me his number. I typed it into my phone with shaking fingers. Then he hung up, and my apartment went quiet in that way that makes you realize silence is never actually silent. It's just you hearing your own thoughts too clearly. I sat there until my alarm went off. When it did, it startled me like a knock on a coffin. I showered in lukewarm water because the hot felt like needles. I brushed my teeth too hard, like I could scrub the taste of coffee out of my mouth forever. I stared at myself in the mirror longer than I should have. My eyes looked wrong, too tired, too alert, like an animal waiting for something. I kept thinking about the drug test, the sedatives, the way I'd fallen asleep so hard in the cab like my body had been forced down. And then I started thinking about Jordan, about the loosened lug nuts, about how Dave had said, casual as weather. That's why we drive in pairs now. Now, like something had happened before Jordan. Like there were other Jordans, other flipped trucks, other blood trails in the trees nobody talks about. My phone buzzed around 6:30. A text from the shop. Truck 8446. Be ready 1900. Ride with Dave again. I stared at it until my eyes watered. I thought about not going. I thought about calling my parole officer, explaining I was unsafe. I imagined his face. I imagined his tone, structure, responsibility, stay employed. Then I thought about Dave's .357 and how steady his hands were. I thought about a man with his throat missing. I thought about Albert Hockney in the trees, staring at me like he'd never stopped owning me. My body moved on autopilot. I grabbed my keys. I grabbed my jacket. I didn't grab my old thermos. I grabbed a new plastic bottle of water and a sealed energy drink from the gas station downstairs, and I kept the receipts like they were armor. When I got to the shop, the yard was lit up bright enough to kill shadows. Floodlights buzzed. Trucks lined up like sleeping animals. Men moved around quietly, faces tired, boots crunching gravel. Nobody talked about Jordan. Nobody asked me if I was okay. They just worked. Like if they didn't name it, it wasn't real. Dave was by the truck when I pulled in. Same fire retardant shirt, same gut, same orange goatee, same heavy-lidded eyes. He looked at me and smiled. Not friendly, not cruel, just like he knew something I didn't. Well, look at you, he said. On time. I didn't smile back. Yeah. He opened the passenger door and tossed something inside. A thermos. My stomach clenched hard enough it hurt. Coffee, he said. Fresh. I stared at it like it was a grenade. Dave's eyes narrowed, just slightly. What? He said, voice turning rough. You too good for coffee now? I brought my own, I said, and held up the sealed energy drink. Dave's smile didn't move, but something in his face tightened. A flicker, like irritation, like a plan being scratched. He leaned in closer, just enough that I could smell him. Coffee, sweat, a faint chemical tang like solvent. "Listen," he said quietly, and his voice lost its casual edge. "You want to keep this job? You follow the rules. You don't get cute. You don't make things harder." "I'm not making anything harder," I said, and my voice came out sharper than I intended. My heart started thumping. "I'm just drinking my own shit." Dave held my gaze for a long second. Then he laughed short. "All right," he said. "Suit yourself." He climbed into the driver's seat. I hesitated at the passenger door with my hand on the handle, looking at the cab like it was a trap. Behind us, another tanker rumbled to life. Different driver tonight. Not Jordan, obviously. A skinny guy I didn't recognize, eyes hollow, jaw clenched like he was chewing fear. Dave patted the dash like he was comforting a dog. "Come on, kid," he said. "Clock's ticking." I climbed in. The door shut with that heavy, sealing thump that always makes you feel like you just agreed to something you can't undo. Dave turned the key. The engine rolled over and caught. The cab vibrated. He turned the radio on immediately. Loud. Not music, just static and some distant station bleeding in and out like a dying signal. My skin crawled because I remembered Rule 3. Don't drive in silence. Not at night. We pulled out. The yard lights fell behind us. Darkness swallowed the road again. We drove the same back roads. Same trees pressing in. Same dips and curves. Same dead cell zones. Dave talked like nothing happened, like Jordan hadn't died. He complained about DOT, about dispatch, about the foreman, about how kids these days don't want to work. I stared out the window and watched the tree line glide by, black wall after black wall, and I kept thinking about Detective Harmon's voice telling me not to get in the truck. Then Dave said, casual as a joke, "You sleep better last few days?" My throat tightened. "What?" "You look like you saw a ghost at the gas station," he said. "Figured you had a rough one." I kept my eyes forward. "I'm Fine." Dave snorted. "Everyone's fine till they ain't." He tapped the steering wheel. The radio hissed. The hills felt like they leaned closer. After a while, we passed the curve where Jordan rolled. I recognized it instantly. My stomach turned. The guardrail looked freshly scuffed. The grass was still flattened where the truck had lain. In the darkness beyond the shoulder, the woods waited like they'd never moved. Dave slowed a little, almost respectful, and then kept going. "Shame," he said quietly. Jordan was dumb. Thought he was invincible. My hands clenched. His truck was tampered with. The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dave's head turned just a fraction. Not enough to take his eyes off the road. Enough that I knew he heard every syllable. "Who told you that?" he asked. My pulse hammered. "A detective," I said, and then hated myself for saying it. "Detective Harmon." Dave's smile disappeared completely. The cab got colder. Not physically. Like the air itself decided to stop being friendly. "A detective's calling you?" Dave said slowly. "That's interesting." He said. I started, then shut my mouth because I realized I was about to hand Dave a map of my fear. Dave's voice stayed calm, but there was something sharp underneath now. "You answer questions good?" he asked. "You tell him everything?" I stared at the windshield. The road was a ribbon of black with our headlights carving a narrow future. "I told him what happened," I said. Dave laughed again, but there was no humor. "What happened?" he repeated. "That's cute. You think you know what happened." My skin prickled. What the fuck does that mean? Dave didn't answer right away. He took a turn too fast on purpose, making the tanker sway, making my stomach lurch. "Means," he said finally, "you're new. You don't know these hills. You don't know what they want." "What they want," I echoed, in anger flare because I hated riddles. "Stop talking like that." "Jordan died." Dave's jaw worked. "Yeah," he said. "Jordan died." He said it like that was a minor inconvenience. I swallowed hard. "And I popped for sedatives," I said, and my voice shook now. "You want to explain that?" Dave's eyes flicked to mine for the first time in a way that felt like being pinned. Then he shrugged. You were an addict, right? My stomach dropped. That's what they told me, he continued, voice soft now, dangerous soft. Parole, county, all that. You think your body's clean? You think it ain't holding on to shit? You think a test can't pull up old ghosts? The words hit like a slap because they were half true enough to make doubt crawl into me. My past was a weapon everyone could use. I'm clean, I said, and I hated how much I needed him to believe it. Dave nodded like he didn't care. Sure, he said, whatever you gotta tell yourself. The radio hissed louder for a second, like it agreed with him. I tried to open my energy drink. My hand was shaking too much, and the tab snapped wrong. It sprayed a little on my fingers. Sticky, cold. Dave watched me struggle and smiled again, small. You know another rule? He said. I didn't answer. Don't bring outside drinks into these hills, he said. They don't like it. That's bullshit, I snapped. Dave's smile widened. Is it? The road dipped into a hollow where the trees arched overhead. The darkness thickened. The radio signal got worse. Static swallowed the station until it was just hiss and little pops like distant footsteps. Then, faintly, underneath the static, I heard something else. A child's crying. My blood turned to ice. I stared at the radio. The sound wasn't outside. It was coming from the speakers. Dave didn't react. He just kept driving, steady, like the sound belonged there. The crying got louder, and I felt my chest tighten because I knew that cry now. Not real kid, not human sadness. That imitation, that wet little wail. My voice came out hoarse. Turn it off. Dave glanced at me. Can't, he said simply. Turn it the fuck off, I said louder, panic rising. Dave shrugged. Rule 3, he said. No silence at night. The crying twisted like it was being pulled through a throat that wasn't built for it. It deepened into that same low growl I'd heard before the coyote lunged. My hands clenched around the pry bar between the seats without thinking. I realized it was there. Dave had put it back in the cab like it belonged there, like it was part of the equipment. Why is that on the radio? I demanded. Dave's voice stayed calm. Because you're listening, he said. I stared at him. What the fuck is wrong with you? Dave's eyes stayed forward. A lot, he said. Same as you. The growl in the speakers shifted again, and this time became a voice. Not a child. Not Dave. A man's voice, low and wet, like speaking through blood. It said my name. Not my nickname. Not kid. My actual name. My hands went numb. Dave finally looked at me, and his gaze felt like a hook in my skin. You hear that? He asked, almost gentle. I swallowed. My throat hurt. Yeah, I whispered. Dave nodded once, satisfied. Good, he said. Means you're finally paying attention. I shook my head hard like I could shake the sound out. Stop, I said. Stop fucking with me. Dave's face stayed relaxed. You think I'm doing this? He asked. The road ahead straightened for a stretch. The trees on either side opened just enough to reveal a clearing. A gas station, not lit like the first one. This one looked half dead. One pump with a tarp over it. One flickering light above the door. The neon sign in the window buzzed. Open, but the letters blinked out of sync like the word couldn't hold itself together. My stomach sank because I recognized it without recognizing it. That same blue-red glow. That same cheap heartbeat. Dave pulled in like it was planned. I grabbed the door handle. We don't need gas, I said. Keep going. Dave killed the engine. The sudden quiet in the cab was heavy and wrong, but the radio still hissed because the key was still turned halfway. The crying had stopped. Now it was just low static like breathing. We take 3 breaks, Dave said, and we're early. You need a piss. I stared at him. No. Dave nodded like he heard me, then ignored it. I do, he said. And you're coming. My heart started racing. No, I said again. I'm not. Dave's expression hardened. The fatherly vibe dropped away completely, revealing something colder underneath. You don't want to be alone in the truck, he said quietly. I clenched my jaw. You told me not to get out during a 211. Dave smiled like I'd said something adorable. This ain't a 211, he said. This is a lesson. He opened his door and climbed out. The cold air rushed in. I stayed frozen, staring at the windshield. Dave walked around to my side and yanked the passenger door open. "Out," he said. I didn't move. Dave leaned in, and his voice went low, close enough that I could smell coffee on his breath. "You think you're the first kid who tried to get cute?" he whispered. "You think you're special because you survived some foster shit and some jail time? These hills chew people up. I'm the only reason you ain't already meat on a stretcher." Anger flashed hot in my chest. "Jordan died," I hissed. "With you." Dave's eyes narrowed. "Jordan died because he didn't follow rules," he said, "and because he talked too much." The implications sat there, ugly. I felt my phone in my pocket. I remembered Harmon telling me to record. My fingers brushed it like a lifeline. Dave noticed the movement. His eyes flicked down, then back up. His smile returned, small and knowing. "Go ahead," he said. "Call your detective. You think the signal works here?" My breath hitched because he was right. The bars on my phone were dead. Dave stepped back. "Out," he said again, louder now. "Now." I swallowed. My body wanted to bolt. But bolt where? Into the woods? Into the night? Into whatever made a radio say my name. I climbed out. The gas station's fluorescent light buzzed. The air smelled like old gasoline and wet dirt. The parking lot was empty. No cars. No people. Just the hum of that sick light and the trees across the road, standing still like witnesses. Dave slammed my door and jerked his head toward the station. 10 minutes, he said. You piss, you wash your face, you stop acting like a spooked rabbit. I followed him inside because my legs weren't listening to me. The bell above the door chimed, a cute, cheerful little ding that didn't belong in a place like this. The inside looked exactly like every small gas station in America, and that almost made it worse. Chips, beef jerky, coffee pots, a rack of cheap sunglasses, a bulletin board with old flyers curling at the corners. A clerk stood behind the counter. Same exhausted eyes, same half smile that didn't reach them. It was the same woman from the first gas station. My stomach dropped so hard I almost fell. She looked at me like she'd never seen me before. "Evening," she said, voice flat. "Coffee's fresh." I stared at her face, trying to find proof, freckles, a scar, anything. It matched. It fucking matched. Dave walked straight to the coffee pots like he owned them. He poured himself a cup slow and steady. Didn't even glance at me. The clerk's eyes slid to Dave, then back to me, and something flickered there. Pity? Warning? Tired recognition? My throat went tight. "We were here," I said to her, and my voice shook. "3 nights ago, you sold me cigarettes." She blinked slowly. "Honey," she said, "I don't sell cigarettes." I stared at the rack behind her. No cigarettes, just gum and lighters and lottery tickets. Cold crawled on my spine. Dave took a sip of coffee and sighed like it was comfort. He turned toward me, cup in hand. "You sure you don't want some?" he asked. "Fuck no," I said. Dave laughed. "Suit yourself," he said again, like he'd been waiting to say it. I backed away toward the bathroom hall because I needed space, because I needed a second where Dave wasn't inside my lungs. The bathroom door was cracked open. The light inside was on. I stared at the crack like it was an eye. I pushed the door open with one finger. The bathroom smelled like bleach and mold. The mirror above the sink was dirty, smeared with fingerprints and something darker at the corners. The fluorescent light overhead buzzed louder than the one outside, like a swarm. I stepped in and locked the door, even though I knew locks don't mean shit. I leaned over the sink and splashed cold water on my face. My hand shook. Drops ran down my wrists. When I looked up, my reflection didn't move right away. For a half second, it stared back at me still as a photograph, eyes too wide, mouth slightly open. Then it moved, delayed, like a video buffering. My breath caught. I blinked hard, and it matched me again. I leaned closer, heart hammering. My pupils looked too big. My skin looked gray under the light. I looked like a person who'd been living in the dark too long. Then, behind my shoulder in the mirror, I saw him. Albert Hockney, standing in the doorway behind me with Big John on his shoulder. My whole body locked. My hands gripped the sink so hard my knuckles went white. In the mirror, Albert smiled, and his teeth looked wrong. Too many, too sharp, like that dream Dave mouth. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Turning felt like giving it permission. In the mirror, Albert lifted Big John and tapped it on the bathroom tile. Top, top, top. My stomach twisted because that sound, Jesus, my body remembered that sound better than my brain did. He whispered. Albert's eyes didn't blink. He took one step forward in the mirror. The bathroom behind me stayed empty. In reality, there was nothing. In the mirror, he moved like he was crossing a distance that only existed on glass. Top, top, top. My throat burned. You're dead, I whispered without thinking. And the moment the words left my mouth, the mirror rippled like water. Albert's smile widened. His mouth opened too far. And from that stretched mouth, another sound came out, Jordan's voice. Not Jordan alive. Jordan choking, wet, wrong. He whispered, "You left me." I flinched so hard, I slammed my hip into the sink. Pain shot up my side, grounding me for a split second. I grabbed my phone out of my pocket with shaking fingers and hit record. The screen lit up my face in the dark bathroom like a flashlight. I aimed it at the mirror. On my phone screen, the mirror looked normal. Just me. Just Grime. No Albert. No Big John. No Riepling. I looked up with my own eyes. Albert was still there. My reflection's mouth opened and stretched, and the voice came again, closer now, inside my skull more than my ears. "You drink what he gives you," it said, and the words weren't Jordan now. They were Dave. Dave's voice. Dave's calm, certain voice. I slammed my eyes shut. When I opened them, the mirror showed only me again. Sweat ran down my spine, even though the room was cold. I stood there panting, phone still recording, hands shaking so bad the video looked like an earthquake. I whispered into it, "This is real. This is fucking real," like saying it out loud would make it stick. A knock hit the bathroom door. 3 knocks. Not polite. Not patient. Boom. 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 My heart tried to climb out of my throat. Dave's voice came through, muffled but clear. "Tom," he called. "You done hiding in there?" I stared at the door. I didn't answer. Another knock. Harder. "Open it," he said, and now the fatherly tone was gone. I unlocked the door and stepped out, phone still in my hand. Dave's eyes flicked to the phone. His smile returned, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Recording?" he asked. I didn't flinch this time. "Yeah," I said. "Problem?" Dave chuckled. "No problem," he said. "Just makes it more fun." My stomach dropped. "What the fuck are you talking about?" Dave leaned in close again, and his voice went soft. "You ever wonder why you saw your foster dad out in the woods?" he whispered. "You ever wonder how the hills know what you regret?" My hands clenched. "Stop." Dave straightened. "Let's go," he said loudly, like we were just 2 normal guys at a normal gas station. The clerk behind the counter watched us. Her eyes didn't look tired now. They looked scared. As I passed, she whispered, so quiet it almost didn't register, "Don't drink." I froze for half a step. Dave's head turned toward her like a dog hearing a whistle. His smile snapped toward her too fast. "What did you say?" he asked. The clerk's face went blank instantly. "Have a safe night," she said, cheerful and dead. Dave stared at her a beat longer, then laughed and walked out. My skin crawled. Outside, the air felt colder. The trees across the road looked darker. The clearing where I'd seen Albert before wasn't there now. Just a solid wall of evergreens like nothing could ever break it. We climbed back in the truck. Dave started the engine. The radio hissed. Static. Then, for a second, a clear voice cut through, Jordan again, wet and far away, like speaking from underwater. "Don't go," it whispered. Dave reached over and turned the volume up. The voice drowned in static. We drove. The road tightened and twisted like it was guiding us somewhere. Not like GPS. Like hunger. Dave didn't talk for a while. That alone scared me, because he was a man who filled space with noise for a reason. The silence between his breaths felt intentional. I kept my phone recording on my lap. The red dot blinked. My battery percentage looked like a countdown. We reached the pad. The pump groaned. The tanks hissed. Mud sucked at our boots. The other driver, skinny guy, pulled in behind us and didn't look at me. His eyes stayed on the ground like he'd learned not to look at anything else. Dave handed me the hose clamps like nothing was wrong. Like Jordan wasn't dead. Like my mirror hadn't just shown me a man who used to beat me. I worked fast, mechanical. I didn't want to be out of the cab longer than necessary. As we hooked up, the skinny driver finally spoke, voice low and harsh. "You're the new one," he said. "Yeah," I answered. He jerked his chin toward Dave's back. "You drinking his coffee?" he asked. My throat tightened. "No." The skinny guy's eyes flicked up, quick and scared. "Good," he said. "Don't. He'll tell you it's a joke. He'll tell you it's tradition. It ain't." Dave's head turned slightly like he heard, even though he was too far away. The skinny guy immediately shut up and went back to his hose like he'd never spoken. My pulse hammered. When we got back in the cab, Dave lit a cigarette and cracked the window. Smoke curled out into the night like a signal. "You making friends?" Dave asked casually. I stared forward. "Just working." Dave hummed like he didn't believe me. "You know what happens to folks who talk to cops?" he asked, still casual. I clenched my jaw. I didn't talk to cops. Dave's eyes flicked to mine. "Detective," he corrected softly. "Same thing." My stomach tightened. "What do you want from me?" I snapped, and now my voice had teeth. "If you're trying to scare me off, just say it. If you're trying to get me fired, do it. Stop with the bullshit." Dave smiled, and this time it was warmer, almost pitying, like I was a child asking why fire burns. "I don't want you fired," he said. "I want you useful." "Useful for what?" I demanded. Dave tapped the ash into the cup holder. "These hills," he said, "they take a toll. They don't want just anybody. They want certain kinds. Ones with holes in them." My hands tightened around my phone. "Go to hell," I said. Dave chuckled. "Maybe," he said, "but not yet." We drove to the disposal point. Same manhole cover. Same dead space. Same darkness pressing in. As we parked, the radio crackled again, and the child's crying came back, faint and rhythmic like it was keeping time. Dave looked at me, calm as ever. "You hear it?" he asked. "Yes," I said through clenched teeth. Dave nodded like a teacher, pleased with a student. "Good," he said. "Means it ain't just me." My stomach turned. We got out. The air was colder here. The woods felt closer. The darkness beyond our headlights looked like it had depth, like you could fall into it. Dave popped the manhole cover with the pry bar and tossed it aside. He knelt and started hooking the pump line with the ease of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. I worked opposite him, hands moving fast, trying not to look into the tree line. And then I heard footsteps. Not ours. Not leaves crunching under boots near us. Footsteps deeper in the woods, circling, slow and heavy like something walking on two legs and taking its time. My breath hitched. I glanced at Dave. He didn't look up. He kept working. "You hear that?" I asked, voice low. Dave nodded without looking at me. "Yep." "Then why aren't you?" I started. "Because if you look," Dave said softly, "it knows you're ready." My blood turned to ice. The footsteps stopped. A whisper floated out of the woods. Too far to be human, too close to be wind. It said, "Drink." I clenched my jaw and kept working, hands shaking. The whisper came again, and this time it used Albert's voice, the exact tone he used when he called us pigs, when he told me to hold still. "Drink," it said. I felt tears sting my eyes, not from sadness, but from rage. From my body dragging old fear out like a weapon. I snapped loud, "Shut the fuck up." The woods went dead silent. Dave finally looked at me. His face wasn't amused now. It was serious, almost disappointed. "You don't yell at them," he said quietly. "Who the fuck is them?" I barked. Dave stood slowly, wiping his hands on his pants. He looked taller in the headlights, broader. A shadow behind him stretched long on the ground. "These hills," he said, "are full of hungry things. Not all teeth. Some are memories. Some are voices. Some are worse." I laughed, sharp and broken. "You're insane." Dave's smile returned. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm still here." He stepped closer, and I smelled coffee again. That burnt, bitter smell that was starting to feel like a curse. You want to know the truth? Dave asked. I stared at him, heart hammering. Dave leaned in and spoke like he was confessing something sacred. They don't care about good people, he whispered. Good people don't have enough inside them to taste like anything. But you. He tapped my chest with one thick finger. You got holes, he said. You got scars. You got names that still make you flinch. That's flavor. My stomach rolled. And Jordan? I spat. What? He wasn't flavorful enough. Dave's eyes flickered. Something cold passed through them. Jordan was loud, he said. Jordan thought he could outrun the rules. Jordan thought he could drive alone. He wasn't alone. I snapped. We were right behind him. Dave's smile tightened. You weren't behind him when his lug nuts loosened, he said softly. My blood ran cold. What did you just say? Dave shrugged like he'd said the weather again. Accidents happen, he said. Sabotage happens. Hills happen. My hands tightened around the pry bar. You did it, I said, voice shaking with fury. You fucking did it. Dave's expression didn't change. Prove it, he said. I raised my phone, still recording. I am, I said, my voice cracked. I'm recording everything. Dave laughed, real laughter this time, like I'd told the best joke of the night. You think your little phone is going to catch them? He asked. You think a camera sees what wants to be seen? He stepped back and spread his hands. Go ahead, he said, pointed at the woods. Ask it to show you. My hand shook so hard my arms ached, but anger pushed me. I turned the phone toward the tree line. On the screen, darkness, trees, headlight glare, nothing else. In real life, with my own eyes, something moved between the trunks. Tall, too tall, a shape like a man stretched wrong, limbs too long, head tilted like it didn't understand next. Its skin looked pale in the headlight spill, but it wasn't reflecting like flesh. It was reflecting like wet stone. It took one slow step forward. The air around it looked wrong, like heat shimmer but cold. My mouth went dry. My whole body went cold. I tried to focus the phone, try to make the lens see it. On the screen, nothing. In real life, it was right there. It tilted its head, and the child's crying leaked out of it like breath. Dave watched me with quiet satisfaction. You see it, he said. I backed up without meaning to. My boot hit the edge of the manhole cover. I almost stumbled in. Dave grabbed my jacket and yanked me back hard. Watch your step, he hissed like he cared. The tall thing took another step closer. The crying shifted into words, and the voice wasn't a kid now. It was my own voice, younger, 13, shaking, saying, please don't. My stomach flipped. My knees went weak. Dave leaned in close and whispered, that's why we don't do silence. The thing's mouth opened, not wide like a scream, wide like a door. Inside was darkness deeper than the woods. It whispered, drink. Something moved behind it. Multiple shapes lower to the ground like coyotes circling. I heard claws on leaves. I heard wet breathing. Dave's hand squeezed my shoulder hard enough to hurt. Get in the truck, he said sharply. Now. I didn't argue this time. I ran. I slammed the passenger door, locked it, and scrambled across the seat like distance mattered. My hand shook so bad I fumbled my seatbelt. I didn't care. I just wanted the cab between me and that mouth. Dave climbed in a second later, calm as ever, and started the engine. The headlights flared brighter. The tall shape stood at the edge of the light, just outside it like it knew the rules too. Like it knew where the line was. Dave threw the truck into gear, and we lurched forward. As we pulled away, I looked back through the side mirror. In the mirror, the tall shape was gone. In its place, standing in the road, was Albert Hockney, Big John on his shoulder, smiling. I flinched and looked forward again, heart hammering. Dave's voice was calm. Don't look back, he said. That's another rule. I stared at him, shaking with rage and terror and something like grief. What the fuck is happening? I demanded. Dave drove like it was a normal route. You're learning, he said. Learning what? I snapped. Dave glanced at me. His eyes looked older now, tired in a way coffee can't fix. You want to live out here, he said. You pay the hills. I didn't agree to that, I said. Dave shrugged. Nobody agrees, he said. They just get chosen. We drove back toward the pad to finish the night like nothing happened. Like I hadn't just seen a thing that my phone couldn't capture. Like Dave hadn't practically admitted he sabotaged Jordan's truck. Like the woods hadn't used my own voice against me. I wanted to jump out of the cab at speed. I wanted to choke Dave. I wanted to call Harmon and scream until the words became real. But I couldn't. No signal. No proof. And Dave sat there driving steady, radio hissing, like he was the only person in the world who knew how to keep the dark from swallowing you whole. By the time we hit 6 a.m., my hands were raw from gripping metal. My nerves felt stripped. My mouth tasted like fear. Back at the shop, the foreman barely looked at us. He checked boxes. He didn't ask why my face looked like someone died again. He didn't ask why Dave had dry blood on his sleeve. I waited until Dave walked away to smoke, then I cornered the skinny driver near the lockers. "Hey," I said low. "Jordan, did he talk about anything? About Dave? About anything in the hills?" The skinny driver's eyes flicked around like he expected someone to be listening. "You don't ask," he whispered. "That's the first real rule." "Fuck that," I hissed. "A man's dead." He swallowed hard. "More than one," he whispered. My stomach sank. "What?" His jaw clenched. "People go missing," he said. "Truksroll. Folks get dragged. They write it up as wildlife or drugs or bad luck. They keep hiring new ones." My pulse hammered. "Why?" He looked at me like I was slow. "Because the job needs bodies," he said. "And the hills do too." He walked away before I could ask more. That afternoon, I got another call from Harmon. I answered immediately. "You still alive?" he asked. "Yeah," I said, voice rough. "Did you go?" he demanded. "Yeah," I admitted. "I went." Harmon swore under his breath. "Anything happen?" I looked at my phone screen. My recordings from the night were there. Hours of shaky video, dashboard, my knees, darkness through the window, static. Audio full of hiss. No child crying. No whispers. No Albert in mirrors. Nothing that mattered. My throat tightened. "Yes," I said, "but I can't prove it." Harmon went quiet. Then carefully, "Tell me." So I did. I told him about the second gas station. The same clerk. The cigarettes not existing. The mirror. The tall shape. The phone not seeing it. The voice telling me to drink. Dave saying, "You got holes." Harmon listened without interrupting. When I finished, my hands were shaking. Finally, he said, "Stay away from him." "I can't," I snapped. "They keep pairing me with him." "You can quit," Harmon said. "You don't get it," I said, and my voice broke, anger and desperation mixing. "If I quit, I lose everything. I go back to benches and needles. That's what they want." "Who's that?" Harmon asked. I swallowed. "I don't know," I admitted. "The hills. Dave. Whatever the fuck is out there." Harmon exhaled. "I'm going to request your toxicology details," he said. "I'm going to look at the shop, the foreman, the whole crew. But you need to do something for me." "What?" I asked. "Next shift," Harmon said, "you don't drink anything from anyone. You keep recording, and you give me a license plate, a company number, anything that ties Dave to a vehicle, a route, a place." "I can do that," I said. "And if you see something again," he said, voice hard, "you do not chase it." I thought of the flashlight in the leaves, the crying, the coyote's teeth on steel. "I won't," I lied. Harmon paused. "You're not lying to me to make me feel better, are you?" I stared at my wall. My apartment felt too small for what was happening. "I don't know," I admitted. "I don't know what I'll do." Harmon's voice softened just slightly. "Stay alive," he said. "That's the only part that matters right now." When I hung up, my phone felt heavy. I sat in the quiet until my next shift. That night, I brought 2 sealed drinks and a protein bar in a wrapper I didn't open until I was in the cab. I kept my phone on record from the moment I stepped onto the yard. Dave was already by the truck when I arrived, smoking. He looked at me like he'd been waiting. "Ready?" he asked. "No," I said honestly. Dave smiled. "That's fine," he said. "Hills don't care if you're ready." As we drove out, the radio hissed, and I heard something faint beneath it. A rhythm. Talp, talp, talp. Not from the speakers. From inside the cab, like someone tapping wood on metal. I looked down. The The pry bar lay where it always did. And next to it, resting against the seat base like it had always belonged there, was a thick, worn piece of wood. A chair leg, smooth where a hand had gripped it. My lungs locked. Dave glanced at it, then at me, and his smile widened so far it almost looked like that dream mouth. "Big John," he said softly. "You remember him, don't you?" My hand shook so bad my phone almost slipped. "You're doing this," I said, voice cracking. "You're fucking doing this." Dave laughed, warm and fatherly again. "No," he said. "I'm just driving." The radio crackled. The child's crying seeped in again, low, patient. Outside, the trees leaned closer as we rolled deeper into the hills. And for the first time, I realized the worst part wasn't that the dark wanted me. The worst part was that Dave was smiling like he'd already promised me to it.